Hello everybody, we are Gabriela and Paola from SC in English, and today we are really happy to be chatting with Linda Ruas. Linda has been teaching and training teachers for many years in Brazil, Japan, and now back home in London. Recently, she's been working on various projects with teachers in Africa, particularly in Guinea-Bissau. She has taught refugees at a camp in Calais, in France, and trained volunteer teachers of refugees in Greece. She currently teaches ESOL and CELTA at London South East Colleges, is a key member of IATEFL Global Issues Special Interest Group, and runs the new Internationalist Easier English Wiki. Thank you, Linda, for accepting our invitation. We are really happy to be working with you in the Global Issues Creating Global Change publication, and of course, to be chatting with you. Okay, we would also like to thank Sergio Duran, who is also in the publication, because he introduced us to you and to the publication and your wonderful project. Okay, so we also want to take the opportunity to thank him.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to chat. And thank you so much for you two and for Sergio for being part of our latest publication. It's been brilliant working with people from all over the world, especially really lively people with loads of opinions like you two. So it's lovely to have you in the group, in the WhatsApp group and in the publication. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for accepting our invitation. So you have recently, as Gary said, you have recently edited the Global Issues Special Interest Group latest publication, Creating Global Change. So what is this project, and can you tell readers what readers can find in this publication?
Okay, right. I wanted to do this because the publication I did before for Global Issues SIG was all about the same sort of things, creating change in African classrooms. And I wanted to do that one because I've been working with African teachers and they were doing such wonderful work on global issues in their classes, on things like environment, gender issues, period pads for girls, loads of wonderful global issues. And I wanted to tell the world about it. So that's how the first publication came about. Then we did that one. Both of these publications, by the way, are free to download on our Global Issues SIG website, which is gisig.iatefl.org under the publications. Okay, please have a look at them. The Creating Global Change, my idea was to widen out the Africa focus to the whole world and find lots of teachers who are bringing global issues into their classrooms and to write about it. And it's been wonderful. There's so many teachers wanted to write for it. We've got a wonderful balance of teachers from all over Africa, Asia, America, and Europe. We haven't got anyone from Australia, but yeah, that's okay. There are 30 articles in the book from 26 countries, and they cover so many different topics. The variety is amazing, about peace, ageism, othering, terrorism, sexual health, refugees, eco ideas with children. The variety is just amazing. It's an amazing book, and I've been so happy to be working with all the teachers on it.
Yes, it's a very, very interesting publication, definitely. Linda, in one of your books that is called Why Global Issues, you pose this question. English is a global language, yeah? Should we only talk, read, and write about developed world Euro-centric issues that tend to appear in course books and simply pretend that the modern world is a nice, clean, happy, distant place not related to our learning? Have you found an answer to this? Can you tell us what your answer is?
My answer is definitely no. I gave up using course books years and years ago. The only one I found recently that's any good is the Raise Up course book, which was crowdfunded and has global issues in it. And I know that you've been part of that as well, you know about it. Yeah, so I just don't use course books because I know they don't contain the sort of things that I want to talk about. I make my own materials. Recently I've done lessons, for example, with my students on Black Lives Matter, US elections, coronavirus around the world, the news. I ask the students what they're interested in and I bring those into the classroom. Okay, it's a bit more difficult takes a little bit more time, but I want to bring this sort of issues into the classroom that reflect the real world, not pretend it's this clinical sort of happy, clean, nice place. And to include the whole world and not just the places which are included in the in lots of the course books. My students, ESOL students, they're asylum seekers and refugees, and they come from all over the world. For example, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Ecuador, Vietnam, all over. So they're interested in the world. Teaching them is a real pleasure because it's like bringing the whole world into class. So we have to practice and learn English with topics from all over the world, and not particularly nice topics sometimes as well.
Yeah, so we know that more and more teachers around the world are now talking about global issues, right? There are many courses offered on global issues, and well, as you were saying, as you were talking about course books, many course books also claim, right, to include global issues as well. But sometimes terms can become buzzwords, right? The term, as many others, may run the risk of becoming a buzzword in our field if we truly, we don't know really what we mean, right? Global issues. So can you tell us what topics are considered or fall into the category of global issues? And well, you were talking about this, if course books truly deal with such topics as they should.
Okay, we've got a wonderful little 2-minute trailer on our Global Issues SIG website. If you have a look there, gsig.iatfl.org. Lovely trailer with visuals and an introduction. And it's got an introduction to global issues there. And it says that global issues are things like social inequality, food shortages, environmental degradation, status of teachers around the world, consumerism, human rights, and all these topics. Now, these are quite heavy topics for class. So we would not expect everyone to bring them into class for children, for example, or in every context. And teachers have to know what context they're in and how far they can go. They need to talk to their director of studies to find out whether they're allowed to bring these topics in. They need to talk to other teachers and find out what the reactions are from students. Because we don't want teachers to be sacked. We don't want students to be really upset. A little bit upset is okay sometimes to bring them up to date to the real world. But we don't want children to be upset. We don't want to put people off. We don't want to be too negative. So I think we need to be quite, be quite thoughtful about how we do this. Lots of course books I find include lots of the lighter topics. The environment's a good one, but they don't go deeply enough. They can talk about things like, I don't know, wind power, solar power, things like that, but not who is going to pay for this, who is going to fund it. So it's the political side that they're scared of addressing, and for a good reason, because they can't afford to offend anyone or they won't sell the course books, of course. So it's everything, global issues. It's the world, it's everything. And we can't possibly leave it out of the classroom, because if we do, it's as if we're, I don't know, we're stopping the learners thinking about these sorts of things or censoring some of these areas of real life.
All right, yeah. In your own experience, you have been teaching for a long time. Is there any specific issue, global issue, that is most challenged by teachers? And why do you think that is so?
Right, I think at the moment, in the last few years, LGBTQ is one of the issues which is, I don't know, one of the most controversial, one of the issues that fewer people want to bring into the classroom. In the UK here, we have lots of LGBTQ awareness weeks, the government want us to bring it into class, so they're supporting us in raising awareness, accepting tolerance, respect, and all of these sort of things, and posters, these things. But even so, there are lots of pockets of resistance, of people who don't feel comfortable bringing it into class, of students who have been told by their religion that it's wrong and they're not even allowed to come to classes. We've had ESOL students leave courses because the teachers have been talking about gay issues, for example, which is a shame, but this is the modern world. And also, more than that, I've been working in Africa with lots of African teachers recently, and I was actually banned from mentioning LGBTQ at the British Council in a training week for teachers, because they said that the teachers would just switch off and they wouldn't relate well to me. All I wanted to say was that several English teachers in IATEFL are gay, so they've got to be prepared for it, even if they don't accept LGBTQ. This is just preparation for the world, and I was told I wasn't allowed to say it. So it's a very, very important issue. I think a lot of people are against bringing it into classroom, probably because they don't know enough about. Maybe they don't think they know, or they don't know any gay people, and they want to sort of cut it off and pretend it doesn't exist. But it does.
Yeah, but it does.
Of course. Of course. So we need to bring it into class, I feel.
Definitely, definitely. Well, this question has to do with something you mentioned that is related to training teachers, right? You were in Calais teaching in refugee camps, and you were also in Greece where you trained volunteer teachers of the refugees, right? So what moved you to go there? And well, if you could tell us a bit more about these experiences.
Well, this was in 2015, 2016, with the so many thousands, millions of people moving around the world, all the refugees. It was such a terrible thing. And I really wanted to do something about it rather than just sit and watch the news and watch all these horrific things happening. Some of my friends, teacher friends, decided to go to Calais in the holidays. So we went over there, and it was such an interesting experience in Calais. We were in a little tiny wooden hut teaching with flashcards. There were piles and piles of course books in the corner that nobody could use because they weren't relevant, but people had donated them. The students there, the Afghanis and Sudanese mainly, Iranian, Iraqi, mostly boys, some girls as well, were so desperate to learn, and they had walked, mostly travelled by bus or car in the backs of lorries, all these things, all across from Africa, and they were on their last leg trying to come to the UK. Every night they would go down to the port, see if they could get on some ships, come back, learn a bit more English, and go back again the next night. The police would just lob a few canisters of tear gas at them every so often. So there was this tear gas all the time in the camp. It was terrible. But so interesting to learn from them, to see firsthand the experience. Because I'd done that, I thought I could help a little bit more in Greece. And I met a woman who started a wonderful group called We Are Here in the Nea Kavala old airport in Greece. And she wanted some help with training her volunteer teachers, who were wonderful people, but had no experience or training as English teachers. So I am the sort of person who says, oh yes, okay, I'll come then. And I went a few weeks later, did lots of training, worked with the teachers setting up the women's groups, found out a lot more about them so that I could help them remotely afterwards. And we set up lots of individual WhatsApp groups and interactions and email support with other teachers, and helped write more some syllabuses and materials, and got a whole support network going for the teachers, which was excellent.
Wow, what an experience.
It was.
What an interesting,
yeah.
What an interesting experience. We read that while you were at one of the camps, I don't know if it was, I think it was at Calais, you asked yourself, what could you teach with a group of students and a few flashcards in a refugee camp? What language is relevant to teach? And how could you get students actively involved? And these questions may resonate with some teachers here in Argentina who are teaching right now in vulnerable contexts, okay? What would you tell these teachers who are asking themselves these questions or similar questions?
I think we can teach everything and anything with just a few flashcards in a very low-tech environment. I think I've gone off high tech and lots of materials in the last few years, because I've seen how effective low tech environment can be. We don't need all these flashy interactive whiteboards to teach well. They might help sometimes to vary things, but we can teach just as well, I think, with nothing. We do need a little bit of visuals, so flashcards are great for visuals. Before we went, me and my teacher friends, we got lots of pictures or drew them just to save time, laminated them all, had these sets of pictures that we could do little activities with vocabulary and the vocabulary games, and then asking for and giving and buying and selling and asking the way to lots and lots of basic language. What they need was basic survival English, directions, help in situations where they might need help, how to ask for help, how to mend things that they wouldn't be able to do without language. So we set up little groups of flashcards and lessons around those topics. And also, I think the language that they can relate to. They need to be able to relate to the language that you're teaching them. So if you're teaching them in refugee camps and you're talking about, I don't know, a high-rise building in Japan, it has nothing to do with them. So you've got to relate it to their context and have the people, them in the context, so that it's something that they can use themselves. How to get them actively involved? We set up very simple question and answer tasks, set them up in circles, asking each other, passing things around with the flashcards. Recently I've been building on this sort of thing, working with the teachers in Guinea-Bissau in Africa, where they have even less than in the refugee camps. They have no course books. They can't even buy flashcards or paper, because if the teachers want to use any material, they have to pay for it themselves or charge the students who have no money. So in Guinea-Bissau, I've been working with them on little sort of ESA, engage, study, activate plans for lessons with no paper, no resources, and things like, for example, write on the board lots of transport, or have pictures of lots of different ways of transport that they can relate to in their country, the bus, on foot, little taxi, for example, and a different, one of the places in their country. And then the practice would be how to get to the place, and using conditionals. If we go by bus, it will cost a lot of money. If we walk, it will take 5 days. If we run, we'll get very hot. So all these examples that relate to their context, building up the language in a real, meaningful context. You don't need any materials at all.
No, that's it. Context and significant and relevant content in real communicative situations is the key. And as you were very well saying, we don't need so many elements. We need just few elements to do so. You wrote an article for the British Council, and in this article you referred to some situations in your classroom in which you felt the need to challenge some of the things that your students said in class, right? And some of the examples you gave in that article were Hitler was right, or gay is wrong, my religion says so, or oh no, refugees again, all refugees are Muslims and all Muslims are terrorists. So these are a few of the examples you gave in which you felt this need to challenge, right, these discriminatory remarks. So how do you personally challenge discrimination in class, and why you think it is important to do so and not to turn a blind eye in those cases?
I think I just cannot let these things go. The first ones were when I just finished training 30 years or so ago. And I was so shocked that students would say things like this. Hitler is right? Who would say that? And I cannot let these things go, so I challenge them. Usually I ask the other students if they agree. If Some of them do. We'll have a discussion. Usually none of them do. And we have a nice, nice, friendly, respectful discussion about where the person got those ideas from. We usually find out, the woman who said all refugees are Muslims and all Muslims are terrorists, she'd got this from her husband who read it in a newspaper in the UK. The newspapers in the UK are notorious for putting all this rubbish into popular parlance. And yeah, so when she realised that it's not true, she was just saying it because her husband had said it and because he'd read it, then she became very, very open to the idea that refugees were actually normal, nice people and they'd suffered. And we did a lot more work on refugees in class, lots of stories of personal refugees, because a lot of these things is because of ignorance. People have never had experience of other people. They haven't had enough experience. And when they actually meet the real people, they find out that they are, of course, normal, nice people, and they stop being against them. So it's about bringing, humanizing the issues, I think, bringing real people into class through texts, through videos, through, I often talk about my friends, for example, and they think, oh, if Linda's got friends who are, I don't know, refugees, gay, or whatever, different political persuasions, then they think they can't be that bad, maybe. I think it's also about confidence. You have to be confident enough to challenge things. And lots of teachers, when they're just trained, they don't have the confidence to, they don't know what to do or how to do it. I suppose I'm lucky because I've always been quite confident, and I don't worry about, I don't know, the manager telling me off for causing an argument, because I think these issues are more important than, I don't know, keeping the peace.
Definitely. Yes, you actually said in this article for the British Council that you felt prepared to challenge these discriminatory comments that some of your students made because of the training you had. You had just come back from Brazil, I think. So how important is it to deal with global and these issues which are considered to be controversial, okay, in teacher education?
I think it's really, really important. I actually didn't feel very prepared at first because my CELTA course, I think, had told me just not to bring in anything even vaguely controversial into class. This was at International House in London, and that was what they were saying at the time: don't bring controversial issues into class. And so I thought, okay, we shouldn't. And I think many teachers still think that because the issues are not in the course books, they think they shouldn't bring them into class. And so it's even more important on training courses that we show them that they can, they're allowed to, that we model lessons so they can see how people can bring these big controversial issues into class and see students' reactions, and that we help them with the sort of issues that can arise and how to deal with them, how to create their own materials on relevant topics, how to challenge what students say, and yeah, how to create their own materials is a really big one, because there aren't materials about lots of these things, and they need to create their own. Yeah, and how to be brave, and also how to know what they're allowed to bring into class and what they're not. For example, I'm training teachers at the moment in the UK, and some of them are going to all over the world, Middle East, Turkey, for example, and they will lose their jobs, get themselves into trouble, and get students into trouble if they mention certain issues. So they have to be careful. And also, I think maybe to put some sort of positive, optimistic slant on it, to give hope. It's no use making everyone depressed by talking about how terrible everything is. I think we need to turn it around to at least that they can end the lesson on a sort of note of hope. What can we do about it? For example, we can write to particular people, business owners, politicians. We can protest in several countries anyway. And we can join organizations which are working to stop or support certain issues. So I think this positive slant is a good thing as well.
Okay. Okay, yes, you mentioned that some of the teachers there are not now bringing those issues into the paper. Here in Argentina, there's a sexuality education law, fortunately. So our landscape is different here. We were talking about course books before, and globally produced course books tend to avoid parsnip topics, right? We talk about parsnip topics with guests generally. Parsnip stands for politics, alcohol, religion, sex, narcotics, isms, and feminism, and pork. And well, they usually avoid those topics because they are considered to be controversial, difficult to deal with, and as you said in one of the articles we read, they may lead to clashes in the relative safety of the class. So what are the benefits of dealing with these topics in class, and what has worked for you?
The benefits are that you're relating this new language you're learning to the real world, yeah, rather than somebody else's world or somebody else's image or idea of the world. And as I said before, it's like a kind of censorship. If we have a list of topics that we're not allowed to bring into class, which is not fair, is it, on the students, that you're only preparing them for certain aspects of life. I think the benefits, I can't even imagine at the moment teaching a class without bringing global issues into it, because I've done so all the time for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. And I think when I have a little option of doing another lesson which has nothing to do with it, I usually add a global issues slant as well. So talk about how it relates to, I don't know, gender or human rights, because it's so inbuilt in my system now.
Yes.
I think back to the training thing that we're talking about as well. On our training course, our CELTA training course, we train teachers to bring global issues into class. And I think our next publication for Global Issues SIG is going to be a publication on session plans for teacher education in global issues. So I'm hoping that you two will be able to contribute to that as well, which will be nice to work with you as well on that. And I think that'll be really useful, because lots of teachers on training courses want to bring global issues in around the world, but don't know how to, because the materials aren't there again.
Thank you for the invitation. We would be really happy to participate. Excellent. Definitely, yes, count on us. Okay, you run the new Internationalist Easier English Wiki, which we visited. We have been exploring it, and we have found it really interesting. Can you tell teachers who are listening to us and watching us what they will find there?
Okay, yeah, it's related to the all the material published by the New Internationalist, which is a cooperative publisher. And we started it about 10 years ago, just by simplifying the articles so that the ESOL students we were teaching could access all these amazing, wonderful topics about social and global justice. So it was a reading website, first of all. Then we started making lessons about them. This is me and my husband who do this together. And we've got about, I think, 180 lessons, ready lessons on the site now, PDF and PowerPoint. And we've got quizzes, we've got arguments, we've got lots of teaching ideas. So it's a self-access resource for students and for teachers as well. It's free, and I just prepare all my lessons and post them there, because these are the lessons I teach my groups. We've got the reading material for New Internationalist. What the students do is they read the simplified article, and then at the bottom click on the original. So they're, as if by magic, developing their reading and vocabulary skills by reading the difficult article with the other one, the easier one, as a way stage beforehand.
We are going to share the website later on when we publish this.
Great.
Yes, we're going to share the link.
Brilliant. Great. Okay, great. But I feel as if I'm doing something useful by doing this website, because it's actually giving people access to amazing journalism. And it's all about the world. Most of their articles most of their news is about the global south. So it's turning on its head again, this idea that Euro-centric UK, US is controlling the world, and having more news, more articles, more information about Global South.
Yes, we're going to share it definitely, because it's so interesting, and you're so generous, Linda. Thank you for sharing all this with us, and well, with the people who will be watching us and listening to us. So to round off, we generally ask this question in our interviews. How do you think everything we have been talking about contributes to social justice, in your opinion?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question. It's a very good question. And I think I've always felt that social justice is really important. I've always been interested in other countries, but now I think with more experience and as I'm getting older, I have more to offer to help, actually practically help with helping to increase social justice and to decrease the distance between different people. For example, we have so much training, technology, equipment, books in the UK. People in the UK are often not even very interested in conferences or books. We've got too much overkill, too many conferences, too many sessions. So what we need to do is to share our expertise with those who have very little. So that was, again, one of my reasons for going to the refugee camps and for going to West Africa and working with teachers there. So resources and knowledge. We've set up lots of WhatsApp groups, for example, for different groups of teachers in West Africa, after the model which we did with the people in the refugee camps. And then I've always wanted to do more and to actually be useful. I need to feel that I'm being useful all the time. So when I started about 3 years ago working with teachers in Africa, mainly West Africa and more specifically Guinea-Bissau, when I went there, first of all, I was so honoured to be invited into people's homes, going to do training, travelling around the country, and sit in a country where they have nothing. No classroom has more than a blackboard and some wooden benches to sit on. They don't even have electricity in most of the classrooms. So I think this was the country that I thought it would be wonderful to work with, a small country like this, and actually try and make a difference. So I've been there 3 times. I've been training. I've been doing lots of work by WhatsApp remotely with teachers. I've been trying to help them with a new syllabus, with groups. And recently, I've set up a charity with a couple of others, and it's called Action Guinea-Bissau. And we had our first fundraising event a couple of weeks ago, which was a half marathon, which I trained and did with my 2 daughters. And we've actually raised £3,200 to help repair wells and toilets, to work with educational projects, to do microcredit projects, to buy massive bags of rice, for example. So I've always wanted to take, in a nice way, take money and resources from the richer parts of the world and give them to the poorer parts. And this is a beginning. So I'm lucky enough to have my stable job. I'm lucky enough to have all these friends and contacts in different places. And I love going to other countries like Guinea-Bissau and trying to see how I can help improve the social justice. It's not fair that some countries have so much and some have so little, that some teachers have so much and some have so little. But I think we as professionals can help with our knowledge, with our resources, with our time, and sometimes even with our money to make things a little bit better.
Exactly. Yeah, it has a lot to do with how we position ourselves as teachers. I mean, if we only see ourselves as teachers of a language, or we see ourselves as educators who can do much more than just teach the language.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Linda, for your time. Thank you for being so generous, as Paul said, for sharing the resources, the classes you prepared with everyone who visits your wiki. Okay, we'll be sharing the link later. Yeah. And again, thank you for letting us be part of the publication. We are really happy, we are really proud, and we are really eager to be there with you tomorrow in the launching of the publication.
Yes, great. Okay, excellent, brilliant. So I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Yes,
definitely.
I think it's more. Is it morning for you? Morning for you still?
It's morning. I think it's 12 in the morning here.
Okay,
midday.
4 o'clock.
Midday.
Great.
Midday.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Okay,
Thank
looking
you very
forward
much
to it
again.
tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye. See you tomorrow.